And we're live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we're going to talk about the incoming Ethereum supply shock and what you need to know about that. So why this is actually a good thing if you're an ETH holder. If you're not, maybe you hold one of these, these Bitcoins. I can't get my camera quite to focus on that. Let's try that again. Yeah, one of these Bitcoins. Then, maybe this is a different story. So we're talking about that. Talk about a lot of other updates that have happened since our live stream yesterday and a lot more. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory. And on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to know how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Last but not least, this is not financial advice, not telling you to buy or sell any cryptocurrency in this video based on this information. It's for educational purposes only, and there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. Just ignore them. I'll never ask you for my phone number, give you my phone number, or ask you to invest with me. Of course, I would never ask you for my phone number. I meant ask you for your phone number. So, see a lot of people jump in the chat here. Let's see, Michael, C. Smith, Joseph, welcome. Lots of people. Some of the names I can't pronounce just looking at them that fast. So sorry about that. But let's jump into this. So let's talk about the incoming Ethereum supply shock. So also, I'm looking at my live stream preview over here. Looks like my camera's blurry. Can you all see me okay? I want to make sure that I didn't, kind of mess it up when I did the Bitcoin here. Awesome. Welcome. So let me know if you can see me okay. All right, so we got a lot of questions here. I'll get to these in the chat. All good. Awesome. Great. So let's talk about the incoming Ethereum supply shock and what you need to understand about this. So this is something that we talked about a little bit, but we're starting to see actually in detail, and we can actually quantify. So you have to understand why cryptocurrencies are valuable in the first place. Sometimes people don't get this when they get into the cryptocurrency space. And sometimes even people who think they get it don't actually get it. Okay, so let's talk about this. So why do cryptocurrencies have value in the first place? Well, based on supply and demand economics, just like anything else. Why do stocks have value? Fundamentally, it's because of their supply and demand. So there's, of course, reasons why people demand them, and then we come up with fancy formulas to value assets and all that types of things. Same with real estate. Same with anything that people buy in terms of assets, okay? But let's talk about the demand side of things for cryptocurrencies and why people want them in the first place. Because they don't work like stock. They don't work like other commodities. They don't work like the real estate markets. So you have different metrics that you have to go by. So one of the main ways that you can do this is to think about the fundamental use cases for the technology itself. So why would people want an asset like Bitcoin? Well, we talk about Bitcoin being a store of value. We talk about Bitcoin, being like a digital gold, all that type of stuff. So that's great. ETH has a lot more value propositions beyond that. So it's like a store of value. It's all can use it to pay for things on the Ethereum network. You can use it in DeFi. You can stake it to earn passive income rewards. Some people just ask me here in the chat, is ETH going to flip Bitcoin? These are lots of reasons why it potentially could flip Bitcoin long term. Not financial advice. I'm saying it's going to necessarily. If it does, we don't know if it'll be permanent or not. But these are some things that you can think about when people are saying why would people hold the cryptocurrency in the first place? It does actually have a value to people. It's just really hard to quantify what the fair market value is, and that's what gets people tripped up the most. But let's talk about that's the demand side of things. That's why people are using it, but that can also create a supply side issue. So when you're talking about the price of cryptocurrencies going up, if you affect the supply or the demand, the supply and the demand both have an impact on the price. So if the supply stays the same, the demand increases, then of course the price increases. If the demand stays the same and the supply decreases, or the available supply decreases, in the sense of people who want to sell the ETH, then that can also make the price go up as well. So let's talk about the actual supply side of things. Of course, if you've been watching these live streams, you understand that we've got EIP 1559 coming up in July, where ETH is going to be burned whenever new transactions are created. And depending on how much network activity there is, this could potentially offset ETH's issuance and either really slow down the new supply of ETH that's created, or actually make ETH deflationary at times of peak network activity, or net negative over long periods of time if you zoom in on bigger time horizons, depending on how much people use the Ethereum network long term. But let's talk about what's happening right now, okay? we've talked about those things a lot on this channel, and if you're new, those things are happening. We can get to those maybe in more detail in Q&A, but let's talk about something that's happening right now that you can actually verify by looking on the blockchain itself. And that's people actually using ETH as a productive asset and locking it up and not doing anything with it, okay? Because that actually creates a demand that really affects the supply, the available supply of ETH, compared to people who might want to buy it. So let me show you on my whiteboard what I'm talking about here. So let's say you have buyers, all right, and they want to get into the ETH ecosystem, and then you just have ETH, okay? Well, this ETH is just the total pot of all ETH out there, the whole supply. Well, you know, a portion of the supply, people may say, okay, yeah, we're ready to sell at this price level, but there's a portion of the supply that's actually getting that value out of the ETH itself and doesn't want to sell it. So we're talking about staking ETH, earning passive income reward for it, using it in DeFi, earning passive income with it, using it in DeFi to take out loans to mint other cryptocurrencies so they can use leverage to buy more assets, all that kind of stuff, okay? So there's a certain amount of ETH in here that people are just getting value out of. They don't want to sell it. They expect the price to appreciate long term, and even if it doesn't appreciate long term, they can still get value out of it without that price appreciation. Now, of course, if it dumps, it won't be as valuable. But let me show you how you can visualize this actually, okay? So this slice of users right here, let's say, are people who will potentially sell their ETH, and then this slice of users is people who don't really want to sell their ETH at the current price levels. So you can actually visualize this on the chain. So that's what's cool about blockchain technology is all the data is publicly available. You can audit it, okay? So we can use analytics tools to actually see like what, let's just see here. You can actually visualize, let me just pull up my screen here. You can actually visualize the first segment of people who would potentially want to sell their ETH by ETH on exchanges, okay? So let me just pull it up here, sorry. So you can look at that with ETH on exchanges, okay? So basically, if someone's holding their ETH on a centralized exchange, you can track the addresses for, then it's a good idea. It's a pretty good indication that person would potentially sell or be influenced. It'd be much easier for them to sell if something happened with the price, okay? So, sorry, I had this metric pulled up and then it left my screen, so I'm pulling it up here. Okay, here it is. So you can actually see the percentage of ETH supply on exchanges here, and it's been trending downward for, you know, basically since January. All right, it was here as low, you know, you can see of the trajectory here. Now, this is not a perfect metric for determining people's intent to sell ETH because, of course, we're using decentralized exchanges or DEXs, where people might just hold ETH in their wallet and they might move it over to stable coins in times of price volatility. So it's not perfect. It's not a perfect indication of what people's intent is in terms of selling. But you can actually overlay that metric with a different one. So this is percent of ETH supply in smart contracts, and you can see that it is rapidly increasing. Okay. So this goes back to the thing that I was showing you here about a certain percentage of supply of ETH holders who are putting their ETH to use in certain DeFi and other applications where they can earn passive income rewards on it, right? And you can see that number is greatly increasing right here, okay? And you can actually overlay these two metrics on top of one another to get an indication of these trends and what they are doing. So you can look at the percent of balance on exchanges is green right here. That's been going down, especially since January. And percentage of supply in smart contracts, which is going up. All right. So what are these people doing? Well, they're doing lots of things. They're, like I said, they're putting it into DeFi apps. You could put it into MakerDAO. You can mint stable coins. You could be a liquidity provider on Uniswap. You could use it for any other staking kind of pool out there. I say pool, I mean like yield farming pool that accepts ETH, you know, Wi-Fi, all these apps, right? Where you can earn interest on top of the appreciation for your ETH. And the other thing you can look at is actual the number of deposits into ETH 2.0 for staking. Okay, so we can pull that up here. I don't have that metric quickly available. We won't have to spend all day just looking at those numbers, but that's another reason. If you can see the number of people also increasing that are going to stake their ETH. So people are putting their ETH to use. That's the supply side of things. And if a good portion of the supply is not intending to sell their ETH, then that's crazy. And you can see the dynamics of this changing. So here you can see that was 22.5%. Almost a quarter of the entire ETH supply is sitting in smart contracts. Like, that's crazy. Like, almost a quarter. Whereas before, almost a quarter was sitting on exchanges. Almost a quarter was like potentially ready to cash out at any moment. And now we can see that amount has been cut in half. Again, DEXs will influence this for sure. But you can see, you can get some insight into the psychological, trend here about people realizing the purpose of it, what they can do with the asset, and what their intent is. Not perfect, but you can definitely see the intent. It's crazy, crazy. So if that's the supply side of things and people who hold ETH realize they can do stuff with it and they don't want to sell and they're betting on long-term price appreciation also, and then you have all these people FOMOing into ETH that want to buy it, and then you have people who just don't want to sell it, well, that's the supply shock that I'm talking to. And you can see that it's happening now. Okay, so this is definitely having some influence on the price of ETH as it's rocketed up like crazy today, in addition to all the active addresses that have been going up and trending up like crazy. Now, of course, this is not financial advice. Like I said, we don't know what's going to happen for sure for the long term. We could see the stock market tank again like crazy like we did last year. We could see some sort of major economic event happen across the globe. If that does happen, I imagine that cryptocurrency prices will come down as well. Like, there could always be something that just comes out of nowhere and surprises everybody that can end this party early. But assuming that doesn't happen, assuming that, this bull run does continue for many more months, like many people think it will. Again, no guarantees there, but assuming that it does, and then we have this trend continue, and then we also have EIP 1559, like we talked about before, the economics of ETH are just getting absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? Less and less and less and less and less ETH is going to be there for sale. Less and less and less and less ETH is going to get created. And then lots more people are going to demand ETH, assuming that the value proposition keeps up. And we keep innovating, and we push more and more and more towards the very real scenario of ETH becoming a new global financial system. It's crazy, and you're watching it happen all in real time, and you can actually see the metrics on chain for it. So let's see here. We got. So that being said, these are some things you can use to see why the cryptocurrencies actually have value in the first place. Now, the thing that is harder to do is to use some magic formula to actually determine the fair market value of the cryptocurrency. You don't have these, you don't have the same types of ratios like price to earnings and all that type of stuff like you would with equities. You don't have, you can compare them relative to other cryptocurrencies. I'm actually got a video coming out about this. You could look at the, price to fee ratio, or what's it? I think it's a price to fee ratio. Basically, where you can look at the amount of fees accrued to the network. That kind of determines people's demand for the network and can compare the cryptocurrency relative to other ones. But that just kind of gives you a relative comparison. You know what I mean? So it doesn't always lead you to a magical number of what the actual price should be, but you can use those as benchmarks to start off with. So somebody says Shiba Inu. So yeah, Shiba Inu has definitely gone crazy. It's absolutely wrecked the gas prices on Ethereum network right now. So this is a scaling pain. I know people say nobody's gonna ever use the Ethereum network, that's too expensive to use. Well, first of all, it's like saying nobody's ever going to live in New York because it's too expensive. It's expensive because people want to use it in the first place. That's where the value of these gas prices come from. It's a supply and demand based model. These will get a lot better. I realize it's a long-term problem, though, for ETH. We can't sustainably do this on ETH forever. So this has to get better. And it is getting better. We're doing a lot to improve this problem. We have layer 2 scaling solutions coming out very soon. We have, Uniswap's planning on a layer 2 launch very soon. That's going to be huge. And I have a firm timeline on that right now. Of course, Uniswap V3 just launched recently. But one of the big reasons for this is Shiba Inu is the sort of Dogecoin spinoff that's, kind of happened on Uniswap lately. So the coin's been around for a while, but it started gaining a lot of popularity, kind of piggybacking off the Doge hype. So you can actually look at the amount of gas that's consumed by that particular project and see that actually is a huge factor. That's the cool thing about chain analytics is you can look at where gas is being used and you can see what people are doing on the actual network, where they're sending fees. So speaking of Doge, we saw a tweet yesterday where basically Elon Musk was talking about Tesla accepting Doge. You can see that here. Do you want Tesla to accept Doge? Musk asked on Twitter. So he's just a poll. So it's always hard to know like what Elon's up to, if he's just making a joke or if he's like being serious. But he could just be trolling everybody. I thought that was funny. So we did see. We can also look at the Ethereum price. Like I said, with all these crazy reasons why the ETH supply would be shocked. We are seeing that value accrue to the actual ETH asset itself. So you can see we're back up to $4,000 here. We kind of had a little bit of a flash crash yesterday. I mean, it wasn't really a crash in the sense of like, a 30% crash or anything. But we did see this really fast, like downward tick right after the live stream yesterday. That kind of got some people freaked out. So like when you're staring down this right here and you don't see what's happening on the rest of the chart, that kind of got some people scared. But, we've recovered from that. All these little mini dips are getting gobbled and gobbled and gobbled back up. I mean, if you look out in the 90-day, this is just like a straight line up bull for ETH. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. That being said, I'm still going back to what I was saying earlier this week, which is time to be careful. You know what I mean? Like when you look at a chart like this on the 1 year, sorry, my 1 year chart's not working. I don't know why my 1 year chart's not working. If you look at it on a much longer timeline, this is not like a screaming buy. Of course, you could put it in log terms as well. But yeah, it's time to be careful because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I saw a tweet the other day, somebody was saying you should be mentally prepared for a 50% dip. And I think you should be mentally prepared for a 50% dip. Of course, not financial advice. I'm telling you to buy or sell based on that information. But I think it is good to be prepared for something like that because it very well could happen. I've seen it happen. I've been there. I've done it. I got into crypto in 2017. So the entire crypto winter that happened over the last basically 3 years before we were here today. I've been there, I've bought the top, watched it go all the way down to the bottom. So definitely be prepared for that. So another thing that was happened yesterday was somebody bought the uniswap.com domain and redirected it to Sushi. We don't know exactly who did it. I think we have a pretty good idea who possibly could do it. So this will definitely cause some controversy here. So if you just like go to uniswap.com, of course, Uniswap's official website is uniswap.org. But if you go to like, uniswap.com, let's see here. See here. Yeah, it just goes to Sushiswap. Uh-oh, my camera went crazy. It goes to Sushiswap. So yeah, some people got kind of upset about this yesterday on Twitter. It's kind of on brand. It happens. We don't know for sure if the brand did it, but probably. Why is it on brand? Because Sushiswap was a fork of Uniswap. They did the vampire attack early on. They're sort of like born out of rivalry. So another thing to watch out for is the Gary Vee NFT drop. So I still don't really know that much about this, to tell you the truth. I just see a lot of people talking about it. So as always, like, do your own due diligence. I haven't really done a lot of due diligence on this. I've just heard, good things about it. He went on the Bankless podcast a while back. He seemed pretty authentic about it. So this is V Friends. I believe it's going live today. All right, so that was yesterday, I believe, May 10th. So yeah, today's the 11th. So today at 5:55 p.m. Eastern time. So let's just look at this here. Again, I don't really know that much about it. I just know Gary's been talking about this for a long time. He's been talking about NFTs, and this seems to be kind of his like crescendo, the peak of his crescendo on this type of thing. So it'd be 10,255 token NFT project, 9,400 emission tokens, 555 gift goats, 300 access tokens. So the main ambition of this crypto project is to create meaningful intellectual property and create extraordinary community. All tokens are a 3-year admission to VeeCon, an annual super conference. Okay, so yeah, we'll just see what happens with this. So we can also see this. Let's just pull this on my screen here. There's got any questions in the chat? So what has happened with ETH? I'm not sure what the question there is. So I also saw this tweet yesterday from my buddy Anthony Sassano. He's got a pretty good YouTube channel too. You go check that out. He does his daily Gwei videos. I've had him on the channel a couple of times, but looks like they were playing around with some potential numbers for ETH price long term based on different supply and demand economics, kind of like we talked about earlier in this video. So you can see this spreadsheet. We looked at a spreadsheet earlier. We're talking about ETH issuance and a potential peak for ETH issuance. So the whole idea here is like whenever EIP 1559 goes live, that you could reach a theoretical max supply for ETH, and then it could net be deflationary after that over time. It's about Bitcoin having a max supply of 21 million Bitcoins. Well, we could actually have a theoretical max supply for ETH if we hit a peak whenever EIP 1559 goes live, and then we never cross that peak, or we trend, downward over time. It could make the actual ETH supply be capped as well, and that would be just based on demand. But looks like they got a spreadsheet here, so I haven't really looked into all the factors of this, but this is like valuing ETH. Of course, there's a disclaimer at the top: not financial advice. Please plug in your own numbers and take with a huge grain of salt, of course. But this is using cryptofees.info to look at long-term daily EVM fees. So these are just fees paid to the network. So if you look at the optimistic, they have like optimistic, lean optimistic, best guess, lean conservative. When EIP 1559 goes live, you kind of plug in different numbers. So the long-term ETH supply. This is kind of what I was talking about a minute ago, where you sort of have a cap, all right? And they sort of plug in a P to E ratio. Like, these are really rough numbers. Like, everybody should know that. This is sort of just speculation here. And then ETH may gain monetary premium, okay? And then if you check in that base factor here, then long-term ETH valuation with no monetary premium with it. So we could have $130,000, $40,000, best guess $13,000, and then with no monetary premium, the most optimistic here is 2.1 million. It's absolutely crazy. So not financial advice. Again, please plug in your numbers. Take this with a huge grain of salt, as the warning and disclaimer says here at the top. But this shows you a crazy range of possibilities, right? We, of course, read the Arthur Hayes report last week on the YouTube channel, talking about a really, really high potential value for ETH as well, depending on what it can do. Can it replace auditing firms? Can it even capture a tiny fraction of the current financial system as it is today? What could happen to the ETH price if it even captured 1% of what we're doing in traditional finance? Like, we're not even close to 1%. Like, we're in a fraction of a percent right now. We're already at $4,000 per ETH. But if it goes to 1%, we're talking like tens of thousands of dollars per Ether. It could be absolutely crazy. We, of course, have a ways to go for that. Something else I saw yesterday, I can't remember who it was. They're talking about one of the big areas for innovation for something like ETH is basically improving the on-ramps for traditional finance into ETH itself. I think that's spot on. You know what I mean? Innovation to let traditional finance bridge over and build on top of Ethereum, because it's sort of an adapt or else scenario. And if we make it easier, it's just easier to bring in more users. And that's good for ETH holders. It's good for the technology. Of course, I think a lot of people's fear of watching what's happening in traditional finance just get replicated on blockchain technology. I think there will be a degree to that. I think, with everything, anytime you have big change like this, you sort of just get change. It's not always better. I mean, you kind of see this happening in generation to generation. You crack open a history book, you don't always see like civilization moving forward. You just see it changing. And sometimes it just caters to new generational preferences and doesn't necessarily net improve everything. Or sometimes, I mean, this is kind of that's how the world tends to work. When you fix one thing, you tend to create a new problem. And you just try to get the best trade-off that you can. And I think many times you're basically just saying those trade-offs cater to new generational preferences, which is probably what's happening with blockchain technology. I do think we can move to a world that's net better for this particular use case. But when we start talking about traditional finance getting involved, new things kind of happening, we'll have to see if what results is actually better than what we had before. So we got any more questions in the chat here? So do I mine ETH? No, I don't personally mine ETH. And also ETH mining is going to go away like really soon. That's another one of the reasons. So when do I see it hitting 10K? Yeah, I don't know for sure. I do think, if this bull cycle continues like we think it's going to, that, it's very, very realistic that could happen this year. That's not a firm prediction. I'm not like guaranteeing you that that's going to happen. So don't make a bet on what I'm saying here. But that's looking more and more likely. Think about all this in terms of likelihood. Like if we were sitting here back in January, if you watch my videos, I was saying I do think it's possible for ETH to hit 10K inside of 2021. We just don't know for sure, and that's the contingent upon a lot of factors. You have to think about in terms of likelihood. Like it's possible, it's somewhat likely, but now the ETH's like $4,000, and it's moving there pretty fast, and we have all this crazy stuff coming down the pike for ETH. Like I'm saying, that likelihood and possibility is going farther and farther and farther up the scale here. Now, one thing you do have to be careful about is, the ETH price being in a euphoric territory right now. That's why I always say be careful. So we can actually see that on Glassnode. Now, normally I'm going to show you this before I dive into the ETH price here. We typically look at the Newpol chart for Bitcoin whenever I do these live streams to kind of give you an overall view of the market health. I talked about yesterday how that may be changing that dynamic, because if ETH flips Bitcoin and it stays there long term, then maybe we don't use that anymore. But you can see like this is where we are with the ETH with the Newpol chart for Bitcoin right now. The Newpol chart for Bitcoin shows that historically speaking, anytime we get into euphoric territory with Bitcoin, prices tend to go down for the long term. And I mean, now that I'm looking at this too, one thing to think about is like, you could see sort of a diminishing returns pattern here where we'll get back to this in a minute. Maybe I'm seeing something here kind of live on camera. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to freak everybody out, but let's look at ETH. So we do have a Newpol chart for ETH as well. And we have entered euphoria for that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the ETH price is going to tank, because if you look at history for ETH, we've been in euphoria for like long periods of time in 2017 without entering into a bear market. So this is the last crypto bull run. ETH was well into the euphoria territory for like months here, okay? And it didn't just enter into a bear market. Now, the price did go down. ETH is a very volatile asset. We've talked about that quite a bit on this channel. But we don't see like, we don't just see whenever we hit blue here, it wasn't like, all right, pack it up, boys, bear market, time to go home. We did see that with Bitcoin several times in the past. But just as a word of caution, we are in euphoric territory for ETH itself. So the thing I was talking about with Bitcoin is, I am just noticing this pattern here as I'm looking at this chart. Look at this. You have 3 euphoric rises, and then a dump, 2 euphoric rises and a dump, 1 euphoric rise. So what if we are at 0 euphoric and then a dump? This is a possibility. You see this as sort of like diminishing euphoric levels in Bitcoin. Like maybe we don't even hit this line. You know what I mean? Again, these metrics are not destiny. We can only look at history and draw insights from it. And what I just said there is not like, you know, I'm not guaranteeing that that's what's happening. I'm not saying the bull market's over, but it's a possibility. I mean, we see, you know, Bitcoin's, the counterpoint of that is, typically speaking, stuff like Bitcoin doesn't stay at a top for like months. You know what I mean? So you can look at the Bitcoin price in the 90-day. We've basically, you can almost draw a straight line through this. I mean, slightly bullish. Typically, you see some sort of massive blow off top for a big asset like that. It usually doesn't stay at the top for a long time. But I mean, you have to be open to the possibility that like Bitcoin is gotten kind of boring and everything else is getting exciting and slightly euphoric, and it could, you know, could be the tail end, and maybe we don't see this fabled 100K Bitcoin for a while that everybody thinks we do. So not financial advice. That could be a totally wrong take. I'm just looking at data here on the screen, potentially analyzing it in real time. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. That's all I got today, everybody. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so more people can learn about blockchain. If you like these videos, you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, and you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. If you like those, you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I should become a blockchain master step-by-step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.